Hi, you are listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening from. This is Not Your Practice Life, and I'm Macy Renee, and I'm so excited to have you joining me. So if you're brand new here, welcome to the podcast, and if you come every week, thank you so much for coming back. So I just recorded about a 40-minute podcast for you guys on today's topic, and then it didn't work, and I got so frustrated. So I walked away from my computer. I went upstairs. I opened up my brand new juicer that I've been talking to you guys about. I recorded a few videos so I can show you for anybody that's even interested, just to take my mind elsewhere. Took some deep breaths, came back down here, and now we're going to do take two and trust that there's a reason why the first one didn't work out. But it comes at the perfect timing, as always, because today we're talking about signs of perfection mentality. It's so funny because a lot of times whenever I am getting ready to do a podcast or teaching or coaching on something specific, the universe, God, whoever you believe in, always puts a test in my path to make sure I'm in integrity. And today is no exception, because obviously whenever I release content for you guys, I want it to be amazing. I want it to be great. I want it to be on time. And it's just funny that today it just would not work. It wouldn't save. There was no way you all were going to get the original episode. And so everything in me originally just wanted to throw my hands up in the air. Very common thing for entrepreneurs. You want to just throw your hands up in the air because every day is a challenge. It's like every day is a challenge. I recently told a client of mine who is trying to figure out what they want to do when they grow up, if that makes sense. We were brainstorming ideas for, what do you want to do? If you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, what would you want to do? And it all led to me letting that client know, like, whatever it is that you decide, just choose something where you're okay with being sucker punched in the face every single day. And you love it enough to get back up over and over and over again. It reminds me literally of people who get into like UFC or fighting, and it's like you have to really love it to get back in the ring. It's like you're going to get your face beat, and you know it, and people are watching, and yet you love it enough to jump back in the ring. That's really what it's like being an entrepreneur, is just knowing that the punch is coming and that you're going to get knocked out, and you're going to choose to get up again and again and again, no matter what, for as long as it takes. It truly is insanity, but the best kind. So let's talk about signs of perfection mentality. The funny thing about this is that whether you identify yourself as a perfectionist or not, perfectionism can be extremely sneaky. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What I have noticed in coaching a lot of brains, and to give you a background if you're brand new here, so I coach my clients on emotional intelligence, on really helping them become self-aware. I love helping people understand why they are the way that they are, why they're showing up the way that they are, and I love helping them overcome themselves to get what results they want in their life. I also have a contract position right now for my coach. The very first coach I ever started working with 6 years ago, she hired me on to her company to coach her clients. And what I coach them on, because what she does is she helps coaches make a lot of money. So I in turn coach them on blocks or challenges that are coming up in their businesses, personal blocks that are coming up and affecting their business, or just business challenges. So I have a wide variety of brains that I'm coaching, and as of right now, I'm coaching about 30 different minds a week, which is a lot, but it's great because I'm learning very, very quickly, and I'm seeing patterns more and more and more, which means I'm going to be able to help my clients even more, right? As I see commonalities and things that people get stuck in. So I was telling my group, the Equip Society, that's my group coaching program, and I, coach them on emotional intelligence and overcoming themselves. It's an amazing program. P.S. Shameless plug for anybody who's looking for basically the most affordable kind of way to work together where you really get what you need, but you do it with people who are also working on the same things. It's called the Equip Society. But anyways, I was telling them on our last coaching call that I wanted to do a podcast on perfection mentality because I'm seeing a lot of things come up from the full range of clients that I have. So I compiled a list, and they helped me as well, with things that come up for them and things that I'm also seeing in coaching sessions that shows me that you may be getting stuck in perfection mentality. Now, what I wanted to say earlier, and I think I got off on a tangent, is that perfectionism can come from various things, but I think a lot of times it stems from the way that we were brought up in childhood, and it could be different things. You could have had a totally healthy upbringing and struggle with perfectionism just because your parents expected high grades, right? Or good behavior, or maybe you had siblings and they were little shits, right? And you wanted to not be in trouble or get in trouble a lot. And so you learned that to receive your parents' love, attention, or them in the best mood, that you needed to be a certain way to get that type of love from them, or that type of attention from them. And so it can be very sneaky in that perfectionism can look like I'm a people pleaser. I do what I need to do. I try to keep other people happy because that is what my little brain, the inner child in me, learned was the safest thing to do. You may also have grown up in maybe a not healthy family environment where there was verbal, mental, emotional, sexual, physical abuse. And again, for your brain to feel as safe as possible in the midst of the chaos, you learned what you could and couldn't do, or how to be quote unquote perfect at something as to not rock the boat and upset your abuser, right? So it shows up for different reasons. In childhood, it could be I needed to be a certain way for teachers to praise me, or for friends to like me, or to avoid getting bullied. We learn so many constructs subconsciously for how to be in order to fit in and be a part of the quote unquote tribe. It's very much old conditioning and how we were wired for those caveman days. So whether you identify as a perfectionist or not, what we're going to talk about today are the signs that may be happening for you, okay? So let's start with number one. The number one thing that I see is if you tend to overcomplicate a lot of things, decisions, getting things done in your life, you just tend to have this ability to overcomplicate something that maybe could be much more simple. And a lot of times the reason that you're overcomplicating things is because your brain subconsciously believes there's a right way. And it believes that if you don't do it, quote unquote, the right way, something is going to go terribly wrong. And if something goes terribly wrong, you'll have to feel negative emotion. If you have to feel negative emotion and you're not well equipped to do so, you will tend to fail before you even get started. You will overcomplicate and make your life a lot harder. This is probably what I see most often. Another form of perfection mentality is avoiding and procrastinating. Okay, so this is where you don't even get started. It is definitely the episode that I have on this podcast called Failure Ahead of Time. This is where you know what you should be doing, or you have goals and you have plans, but instead of doing them, you avoid them altogether, or you procrastinate and you do other tasks. So maybe this is like making a list of everything you want to get done and then noticing at the end of every day you didn't do it like you thought you would or the way that you wanted to. And a lot of times the reason that this is because it's sneaky, and perfectionism gets in the way of thinking that you have to follow the list exactly. You have to follow your timeline exactly. There's no room for error. Okay, these are the stories that your brain will tell you. Like there's no room for the kids getting sick, or for running late, or for waking up late, or for something to be taken off track. Like there's no room for any mess ups. And when your brain sees that the plan isn't going accordingly, or it even anticipates, again, emotional pain for what could happen, you will avoid and procrastinate a lot in your life as to keep from having to feel the pain of not doing it perfectly. So it's another sneaky way that perfectionism shows up. Okay, let's talk about a third way. A third way is starting and stopping. How often do you start something and then stop? I see it most often with working out. I'm guilty of it. I just did an Instagram post today where I was on the treadmill, and I posted, haven't been to the gym in like 6 to 8 months or something like that. And my husband so lovingly reminded me whenever we got home. He's like, why are you lying to your Instagram? You haven't been to the gym in like a year. And I was like, no. And he was like, yeah, you haven't been since I got COVID last year. And he got COVID last December. And it made me realize, like, oh, you're totally right. And I've been guilty of this a lot, especially when it comes to fitness, is starting and doing really well, and then stopping, and then starting, and then stopping. And I think a lot of the reason, again, is that sneaky perfectionism mentality, where we feel like when I start and I'm doing it well, everything is great. And then when I slow down or get off track, all of a sudden I've ruined it, and there's no need to get back on the train. Which leads me into the actual most common thing I see out of perfectionists, and that is all or nothing mentality. So I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, I'm all or nothing. I'm either the person that is, consistently following my eating plan every single day, or I am not following it at all and I'm staying home, laying on the couch, sulking. Okay, I understand this very well because this is where I was 6 years ago when I hired my very first life coach. Okay, I would tell her all the time, I'm all or nothing. I either work out 6 days a week, I'm very consistent in my eating, I'm juicing, I'm doing all of the things, I don't have cheat days, I'm very strict, I'm bodybuilding, or I'm doing none of it. Like if you give me one piece of cake, I'm going to eat the whole cake and I'm going to sabotage it, and then I'm not going to work out anymore and I'm just going to be lazy for the next 6 months. I'm all or nothing. When we have this mentality, it's very telltale of perfection mentality, okay? What your brain is doing is saying, if I don't do it perfectly all the time, I shouldn't do it at all. Or I'll get started, and as long as things are going perfect, I'll keep doing it. But as soon as something comes in my way that takes me off track, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then I'm going to beat myself up about it. And I'm going to ruminate on how I used to do it so perfectly, and I used to be able to do it so consistently, and I used to be great at it, and now I'm not. And rather than just jump back on the train and keep going and, have little mess ups here and there, it's really like the brain obsessively focuses on it has to be a certain way. It has to be perfect, or I just can't do it at all. And I see it a lot. And I was guilty of it. And I remember something that really, shouldn't say it changed my life in the moment, because it definitely didn't. My brain argued with it for a long time, was when my coach was like, there's no such thing as all or nothing mentality. How you do one thing in your life is how you do everything. You think that you're all or nothing for working out, and you think that's the only area where it's showing up. And she said, I guarantee you that if it's showing up in working out, it's showing up in other places, because how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I was really sold on my own story of like, no, it's just working out. Like everything else I can do consistently, and everything else I don't need a perfect routine, but working out is, and eating healthy is like the one thing that gets me off track. And I just wasn't having it. I really wanted to argue with her for so long, like weeks, maybe even months, about all or nothing mentality. And then instead of being defensive, I really started to be observant of my own behavior and noticing all of the areas of my life where all or nothing was showing up. And again, all or nothing is really your brain saying like, it has to be a certain way. It has to be the way I visualize in my mind. It has to be quote unquote perfect, even if it's not directly telling you that, in order for me to do it. What I want to challenge you to think about is, what is perfect? Perfect does not exist. Okay, perfect is subjective even to each individual. Somebody with a huge mansion and 20 different sets of gorgeous silverware for table settings might be like looking at all of their stuff and think, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And then you might come across another person who lives on 100 acres and works their land every single day and has one set of silverware for their family, and they have chickens and eggs, and they might think that their life is perfect. And you might have another person who, lives on half an acre in a tiny home with one set of silverware and thinks that their life is perfect, right? Perfect is so subjective. And it's a perception based on what we are thinking about, okay? And it really doesn't exist. So I just want you to think about, if you get stuck in this all or nothing mentality of it has to be a certain way in order for me to do it, you're really sabotaging yourself, okay? And this is note to self for me too, because I know there have been times in my life where, especially like with the gym and working out, where I'm like, oh, but I need, cuter outfits that I feel more comfortable in, or that, are matching sets so I feel cute when I'm working out. It sounds so ridiculous saying it out loud. P.S. Saying it out loud sounds so dumb. But in my mind, it's like I need, a new pair of shoes that support my feet better. Like you can spin it however you want. It's like I need to get, my juicer and be juicing every day. And I need to get meal prep containers and be prepping my food so that I don't go off track. And very much when you get into that kind of thinking where it's almost like obsessive of it needs to look this certain way. I have to have everything lined up. I have to have everything set so I don't get off track. You're likely in all or nothing mentality, and you're at risk of the starting and stopping, because as soon as something doesn't follow the plan, like something gets thrown your way where you don't follow the plan, then you're going to start sabotaging. Okay, and this is really a big thing. In fact, this skill, in order to have this skill to overcome, it's a level of emotional intelligence. Okay, so it's recognizing like when you're self-sabotaging and what your brain is thinking and how it is taking you further away from your goals, and then making the conscious decision to go forward anyways. Okay, and when we don't do that, we really stay in these vicious cycles of not doing the things that we know are going to help us long term, because we're staying in a cycle of perfectionism. And what even is that? Okay, so another sign of perfection mentality is when you beat yourself up a lot, when you just don't feel like you're doing enough, when you feel like I'm not doing a good job, I'm not enough, I'm this, I'm that, and it's all negative focused, and you really are frustrated with yourself. If you're constantly beating yourself up, you're likely falling into the pattern of perfectionism. Again, what is perfectionism? Why is it something that we try to attain so much? It's like, who are we doing it for? You really have to ask yourself that as an adult too, of like, who am I doing this for? If I'm trying to reach this level, whatever level I have in my mind, am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for another person? Am I doing it to seek someone's approval or their validation? And if I'm doing it for me, am I doing it in a healthy way? Because when I talk about becoming your highest self, that doesn't mean that you are aiming to be a perfect version of yourself, okay? that does not mean that life is going to, look like you being happy 24/7, because guess what? You're human. When you're working on being your highest self, it really means your highest level of self-awareness. It's noticing your patterns quicker, more and more quickly, and being able to self-correct. It's experiencing the depths of emotions, both the amazing ones and the full-on trashy, negative, yucky, I hate this emotions, and not letting it take you off track from the type of person you are and who you're wanting to be. Your highest self is not your perfect self. It is you embodying the full human experience and having your own back. It is pushing your limits and knowing that whatever you want to create is absolutely possible, and you don't have to become someone different in the sense of you have to be perfect best you. It means you have to embody your full self. You have to recognize the things that are not serving you and consciously choose what is not serving you, why, and love your reasons for changing those negative habits. But it's never to obtain a perfect persona of yourself. So just notice when you're beating yourself up, because human things are going to happen. You're going to set plans. Your plans are going to, be interrupted. It happened to me tonight. I wanted to get the podcast done early. My husband and I went to the gym, the grocery, we ate really good, we took a nap, I wanted to wake up, I wanted to get the podcast done, and I wanted to resume a show that we've been watching together. I did the podcast, I spent 40 freaking minutes on it, right? And I was very proud of myself, and then it wouldn't save because my computer had not been restarted for a while. So note to self, to any creators, like, please restart all of your stuff before you do something important, just to make sure it doesn't glitch. So it glitched, and then it was like, okay, where do I go from here? I could have let my mind spiral in that all or nothing. Well, I'm either consistently doing podcasts all the time or not at all. Or I could have avoided and procrastinated and said, well, I'll just do it in a few days because I'm aggravated. I could have beat myself up and been like, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I not reset it? What was I thinking? Oh my gosh, and spent time, negatively talking to myself. But none of that serves me. None of it serves you. So what I did do that I knew would serve me is walk away from the computer, go manage my mind, breathe, take some deep breaths, do something loving for myself. Oh, let me open up my new juicer. Let me play with this and try it out. Let me clean it up, and then I'll go down and I'll record a podcast episode. I will stay in integrity. I will follow through with what I know that I commit to doing, of releasing a podcast episode every week. And, it's like, just get back on track. What we do when we get stuck in perfectionism is we let the life moments that suck take us off track. And we sabotage because it's not what we thought it was going to be. And it's really just not serving us. So I just want you to call yourself out when you notice yourself doing this. And I hope that this podcast will help bring up ways that perfection may sneakily be hanging around in your brain. Okay, the next part, or the next sign, I should say, anxiety, okay? And anxiety in the sense of like, we anticipate so much that we stress ourselves out. So when I talk about perfection mentality in terms of anxiety, it's like, when it's time to make a decision, when it's time to do something, when it is time to get the ball rolling on whatever it is that you're wanting to do. If you're feeling a lot of anxiety in your body around it, if you're battling it, I want you to know anxiety is just energy in your body that needs to move. It's energy in your body or an emotion that you're avoiding feeling. And because your brain is really good at it, it will push those emotions down. Like, it could be anxiety over wanting everything to go perfect. Let's say you're planning a baby shower, okay, for someone, and you have a lot of anxiety. The anxiety is there because your brain is focusing on the perfectionism of wanting everything to go really well and wanting everybody to be happy, including yourself. What it's lacking in that moment is the capacity to hold space for what if things don't go as planned. What it is anticipating is that when something unexpected maybe happens, that you're going to have to feel a negative emotion that you won't know how to deal with. You won't know how to cope with it. It'll really stress you out. It'll be awful. And so because this is what your brain is internally, subconsciously telling you, the anxiety is trying to anticipate what might go wrong so that it can plan ahead of time to try to avoid what might go wrong, simply so it doesn't have to experience negative emotion. Okay, so what this might look like too is over analyzing everything, dictating to people, trying to control a lot, doing a lot of self-questioning, not being able to focus very clearly and be present because, again, you might be anticipating something that you don't feel you have control of. But what was really happening is you're not having your own back for emotions that come up if something unexpected happens. Okay, that's why the anxiety will continue to kind of fester with perfection mentality, is because you're not wanting to face the negative emotion that may come up if things don't go perfectly, even if that's not how your brain is kind of saying it, right? So I know, like, when I planned my sister's baby shower, I had so many ideas in mind of how I wanted it to go. And the closer that it got, the more frustrated I got at times because I'm like, this isn't matching in my head the way that I wanted it to. Like, I wish I could, recover the chairs in this event space and micromanage the people that are not answering me back fast enough. And I just was making myself anxious rather than allowing myself to feel the emotions of uncertainty, unsure, disappointed, okay? So again, those are the emotions that my body was holding on to and that we're trying to move. Those were the energetic, emotions trying to move throughout my body: uncertainty, disappointment, frustration, annoyance. But it was disguised as anxiety because when we're anxious, we think if we're anxious, it comes out as anticipation of I'm going to try and control all the little chess pieces so I don't have to feel uncertain, disappointment, frustration, all of the things. And the funny thing is that we're feeling them anyways. It's just disguised under this umbrella of anxiety. Okay, that's why getting to the root of a lot of our anxiety can be very powerful because, we can move through it much more quickly if we're willing to face the emotions underneath it. And that's why a lot of times for people who struggle with anxiety, me included, it will feel like we're crawling out of our skin, because I want you to think about it as like 50 different emotions swimming around in your body and you pushing them down. Okay. It's kind of like trying to take a floating water bottle or like a pool float, and hold it down underwater. Have you ever tried to do that? Like an inflatable, you try to push it down. Think of a beach ball. Okay. This is a perfect analogy. Think of a beach ball that you jump on in the pool and you're trying to hold it underwater. You know that if you've tried to do that, whether as a kid or as an adult, you're going to be flipping all around and it's going to be very, very challenging for you to do. And each beach ball is an emotion, okay, essentially in your body. The anxiety is coming from those beach balls trying to stay at the surface and come up and be processed, and you trying to push them down. Like, I don't have time to look at you, depression, right? And you're trying to like jump on the beach ball and hold it underwater. And it's very, it will make you very anxious trying to hold it down when it's fighting so hard to come up. Same thing with, disappointment. I don't want to feel your disappointment. Jump on another beach ball, okay? And you're flipping all around in the pool trying to hold down disappointment and being like, I can control you, I can control you. Meanwhile, your body is like freaking out because it's like, I can't control you, right? And this is why people, I think, with anxiety feel like they're jumping out of their skin. So I just want to make you aware of all of the ways perfection mentality can show up. So let's go through this list one by one so you can kind of make a list in your mind, or if you're writing it down, where this might be showing up in your life. If you overcomplicate a lot of things, if you avoid or procrastinate, if you do a lot of starting and stopping, if you get stuck in all or nothing mentality, if you engage in a lot of beating yourself up, and if you experience a lot of anxiety anticipating what could be, because you don't want to deal with the emotions that come up if you don't control everything. Okay? So just kind of, sit with this, think about this. And if you don't know what to do with it, that's why I'm here. Okay? You can schedule a free 60-minute consult. We can talk about if coaching is the right fit for you, whether one-on-one or group. One-on-one is always a little bit more limited because I'm already coaching about 30 brains a week, and I don't want to completely, overload myself. So one-on-one is something you do need to schedule a consult in order to see if we're even a good fit, or if you need to be referred out, or if it's just not the right time. There's never any pressure with it. But that's something that you can do to see if moving forward together is a good thing. And it's the perfect time to do it because the new year is starting and you don't have to wait to get started on your goals by any means. But I think a lot of us think about how we're starting fresh and, making new goals. And so this is a perfect time. And we can even talk about the group program if you're looking for other like-minded individuals who are doing this work. So with all of that, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you guys so much for sharing the podcast. I have had so many of you reaching out recently telling me that you're enjoying it and that you're sharing it with friends and family, and that even over the holidays, there were a few different people that were able to communicate together like in a very deep manner because everybody was listening to the podcast, like family members, friends. And I just think that that is so cool. I really do believe in the power of having a coached brain and being super self-aware and emotionally intelligent. I just think if more people in the world would do this work, we would have a lot less problems. I believe that through the depths of my soul. But it starts with us, and it starts with our individual commitment to doing our work. So if you're ready to do that work, I can help you with that. Schedule a free consult on MacyRenee.com. Otherwise, I will be seeing you again soon on the podcast. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at MacyRenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at MacyRenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.